More than 15 areas across southwest Sydney are ordered to evacuate from major flooding. Joining me live is Assistant Commissioner Dean Storey from the New South Wales SES. Thank you so much for your time, Dean. Now, we've got a list of evacuation orders growing basically by the hour, some people having been affected by recent floods and evacuating for the third, possibly fourth time. What do you advise people to do if they receive an evacuation order?
Yeah, we've got a number of evacuation orders and warnings in place across a large part of Sydney. So it's important that the community remain aware, monitor your local forecasts and warnings, and always heed the advice from the SES and authorities. So if you receive an evacuation warning, that's advice to prepare to evacuate as soon as you're advised. And if you receive that evacuation order, that means evacuate now. You must evacuate your home, go to friends or family, or one of the evacuation centres that'll be provided locally. So it's a very dynamic and dangerous weather situation we're currently experiencing. That's set to continue through the rest of today, overnight into tomorrow. So really urging communities across the Illawarra, Greater Sydney, into the Central Coast and Hunter to be aware, remain vigilant, again, monitor those local forecasts and conditions, and always listen to the advice and heed those warnings from the SES and other local authorities.
And Dean, talk us through how they might get these orders, like radio, SMS messages, etc.
Yes, so a number of methods are utilised. One of the best places for community members to go to get up-to-date, accurate information is the SES website. You can also follow the SES on social media. That's for evacuation warnings and orders information, as well as advice on how to prepare to evacuate your home and other pertinent safety advice regarding the current storm and flooding situation. The Bureau of Meteorology, their website's the best place to go to get up-to-date weather information, weather warning information. And also ABC Radio and Sky News and all your other usual media outlets can provide good, accurate information. But again, it's about being vigilant, maintaining awareness of what's going on. We're not out of this weather situation yet. Heavy rain continues. It's set to continue into tomorrow. Rivers are continuing to rise, particularly in the Hawkesbury-Nepean area. Flood warnings are in place for moderate to major flooding in many areas. So it's a case of being vigilant, making those smart safety decisions for yourselves and your families.
We're seeing on screen, just shots of streets with flooding roads. We've had dams overflowing. The ground is so saturated already across many areas in those warning situations that we're seeing in New South Wales. Some people in previous dangerous weather events choose to stay home and not heed the warnings. What are your thoughts to people that might be listening right now, possibly not going to want to heed those warnings?
So if you're living in those affected areas, our advice is to stay home, avoid unnecessary travel. Roads across a number of regions will be flooded and cut off, creating very dangerous driving conditions. So avoid unnecessary travel. If you have to travel and hit the roads, drive to the conditions, but never drive through floodwaters. SES crews have already responded to 71 flood rescues today, and a large proportion of those for people who have made conscious decisions to try and drive through floodwaters, got themselves stuck and put themselves, their families and the emergency services rescuers' lives at very high risk and completely unnecessary risk.
And a lot of those roads can be deceiving, can't they? You could just be driving, it looks, like only a couple of centimetres of water, but then once you're in it, really get affected. Obviously, the message again is to slow down, and if it's flooded, forget it, which, the SES do say numerous times. But we also have to realise, talking to the meteorologists, that the system, the East Coast low, over the next 24 to 48 hours is certainly going to move on in and create more wild weather and heavy falls. So even if somebody is around some of the warning areas, it might seem dry at the moment, but it's certainly not going to be the case for many regions.
Yes, spot on. As you said, the rivers are full, the ground is saturated, the dams are at capacity, so it doesn't take much additional heavy rain for things to escalate very, very quickly and for what might look like a reasonably safe situation to turn deadly. As far as trying to drive through floodwaters, it may look like it's only shallow, but you don't know what's happening beneath the surface. The roadway could be completely gone and cut away. There could be very dangerous debris, and moving water as well can be deceptively dangerous. Moving water has a lot of power and can easily take cars off roads and be swept downstream. So it's a dangerous situation. Floodwaters are extremely dangerous. The core message from the SES today and for the coming days is to stay out of floodwaters and do everything you can to avoid them.
We also heard from our meteorologist that tonight we're going to see potentially dangerous winds around the Sydney area and Newcastle and around the Illawarra district from that east coast low. We're hearing ministers and so forth and people from the SES saying to not drive on the roads if necessary. What is the New South Wales State Emergency Service in for tonight? What are you on standby for? Because, as we mentioned, there could be some trees down and very dangerous conditions.
SES crews across the South Coast Illawarra, Greater Sydney into the Hunter have been very active over the last 24 hours, particularly overnight into today. So crews have responded to almost 3,000 requests for assistance from the community today. So we're expecting that operational tempo to continue as those winds increase. So the winds have been reasonably light over the coming days in some areas, but as those winds increase significantly across most areas, we're going to see a lot of trees coming down across roads, across buildings, across houses, across driveways. So really urging the community again when it comes to that risk to be aware. Again, avoid unnecessary travel. If you don't have to be out on the roads and you can stay home, please do so.
All right, really appreciate your time and best of luck, Assistant Commissioner Dean Storey from the New South Wales SES.
Thank you.